And the same weekend, I had a credit card fraud alert. I had to spend a couple of weekends going to 100 different websites, changing this information. That was the moment when I'm like, all this information should be coming from me. I should be the center point for all my information. The product was waiting for something like blockchain to show up.
You've reached Toby and Brent. We'll get back to you.
Sumit,
Yes,
it's been a year now, and
It
we
has.
met at the exact same place.
we
I
did.
mean, not in here, but in Denver.
Yes.
And then we made our journey to New York City, where we were hanging with the European kid.
We were. That's right. I remember that day very clearly.
Yeah, we had dinner, and we went into your personal hobby,
Yes.
Yeah.
Passion.
the personal passion, and you have an amazing.
I represent.
You represent.
I try. Yeah.
But it's amazing to have you here and
Thank
kind
you.
of like
My pleasure.
continue where we kind of started in the
Yeah.
same city in the US, and you came a long way since then. A lot of things have changed. Build
It
out
has
a
been a
team,
ride.
build a company. It's been a ride. So thanks for being here. I really appreciate the time. I know you're a busy man today, tight schedule. So I would love you to just give an idea of you have an incredible background, right?
Yeah.
You've done a lot of things for your age. You came from India, and now you're in New York, and you're running an incredible company. So how did
Yeah.
this all come together?
Wow, it has been a long, long road. But at the start of things, I was always involved with technology since I was little. I knew from the get-go, tech is where I want to be. Growing up in India, I was the youngest ethical hacker. And then from that point on, just went deeper and deeper into the telecommunication space. Became the youngest CCIE in the world. Packed my bags, moved to New York City. The goal was always to, be an entrepreneur. And then, an innovator, so to speak, right? So started with filing for multiple patents along the way as an innovator. Got cited in about 180 patents now online on USPTO. Started doing telecommunication work for all the big banks. I can't name them, but literally all the banks that exist in New York City, I've designed the data centers and their global network, so to speak, distributed environments. Went on to then basically launch the world's first decentralized privacy-preserving contact tracing platform to fight COVID, which got us a lot of PR and what have you. But that whole thing was extremely political. As you know, Google got involved, Apple got involved, and the governments got involved. So I was like, hey, I was just trying to help. But that was 2020, and then that brings us to Maine, basically.
I mean, you're saying these things if this would be a casual Sunday journey, right? I mean, you've done some incredible things.
Yeah, this was in a few minutes what I could compress, but yeah.
But how did it start? I mean, how did you get into this in tech? Like you were young and you were doing all these crazy things. I mean, it's not just like I didn't do that. I was building tree houses at that time.
I mean, sometimes you just know what you want to do and what you have interest in. And for some reason, when I first, got into tech, it was an aha moment that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is, something in there, right? You're 12 years old, you're 13 years old, you don't know exactly what, but you're just so interested in things. You're just reading about tech all the time. I clearly remember that moment. My friend had just traveled from Sweden or something, and he bought this first PC mag, and it came with a CD-ROM. I'm like, whoa, what is this? Let's explore, let's read about it further. And that was sort of my entry point into tech, is reading that magazine. And, oh, wow, you get a CD-ROM with this, oh, you get free games and you get a free internet for a few hours with all these things. So that was the genesis of my, I think, interest in this field.
Was that like all self-taught or like?
Yeah,
Are
I'm
you a
mostly self-taught.
developer by heart?
I dropped out of college when I was when I was 19 years old. So all of this sort of, going to school, going to college for me was, it felt like I'm wasting a lot of my time. Just again, because you know what you want to do, where you want to go. And just the idea of doing engineering for 4 years of my life. And, when you come out on the other side as an engineer, you're just starting at the ground level. It doesn't carve out that niche when I had already found my niche at a very young age. So starting off as an engineer would be like, okay, I'm going to spend 4 years studying. Sure, I'm going to get a degree, but I'm still going to be, not focused on one, but perhaps a jack of all. And that to me didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Then you moved to the US, and that was kind of like a turning point.
The CCIE certification was sort of like my gateway. I was number 24 in India, maybe.
What is that for everyone who's not familiar?
Yeah. CCIE is Cisco Certified Internet Network Expert. It's one of the most difficult certification examination in the world that you can give. People take 5, 6, 7 attempts to pass that. And I was one of the youngest in the world to have cleared at that point. And once you do that, this was back in early 2000s.
How old were you there?
I was 21.
Jesus.
Yeah. So once you get that, your phone doesn't stop ringing. Everybody wants to hire you. I lined up 5 interviews in New York City, packed my bags and moved to New York. So based out of New York City for the last 20 years and been designing global telecommunication networks for all the banks, basically.
Wow. And then how did you go from that to Maine? Like, what was like the inspiration?
Yeah. Well, the idea was always to not be a 9-to-5. The idea was always to be an entrepreneur. My inspiration, came from back in the day. Again, in the 90s, mostly that was the genesis of, what I wanted to be. Was from watching Pirates of the Silicon Valley, Bill Gates, and of course, Steve Jobs. I'm like, yeah, this is cool stuff. And then also, I don't know if many people remember, but 96, 97, Hotmail got acquired by Microsoft for $400 million. And I'm like, I could have done that at home. It was just taking email and just turning that into, giving it a web interface, right? And that was a big thing. And I'm like, I could have done that at home. Back then, I was
Simple things, man.
Yeah. So that was sort of like, okay, I'm going to pack my bags. But back in the day, also at that time in India, you didn't really have the infrastructure needed to have your own startup. There were no VCs there. There was no, a lot of bureaucracy starting your own company. So I'm like, yeah, I have to move out.
And why New York, not SF?
Why New York, not SF? I traveled to New York before. And coming from Mumbai, that big city feel, you feel more naturally, fitting in a place like New York City than SF. Yeah. Also, my sister had moved a couple of years before me, so I had a home base.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I was
perfect.
lucky that way. I didn't have to find an apartment in New York City, which was very helpful.
And then you work with all these banks,
Yeah.
right? And you obviously provided a ton of value for them.
Yeah.
And but then you decided to leave that. I don't want to call it a safe house, right? But like something that probably was lucrative and you had expertise in, and then started Maine.
Yeah. While I was working for the banks, I was always filing for patents along the way because, there was always that entrepreneurial that I want to be an innovator thing going on in me. I was good at what I was doing, but I didn't see that as my end goal. I never saw that as my end goal. It was always, okay, I'm good at this. How can I use this as a platform to do something big, right? That was my approach since I was little.
Are these patents helpful now for Maine, or like?
Couple of them are, yes. Couple of them are not. So yes, I would say they are very helpful. Yes.
I want to just pause it for a second, right? Because I haven't had many people that filed over 100 patents before.
No, I have filed for 4, but I've been cited in over 180 patents. Yes,
but I mean, even 4, right? I mean, I don't think I've ever talked to someone who filed 4 patents. I mean, how does that work, and what did you file? I mean, like just to get a bit of an idea.
Well, you basically the first one that I filed for is in the space of how we bring it's all related, by the way, to Maine in some ways or the other. The first one was, how do you bring all your data behind a single identifier? This was back in 2009. Blockchain did not exist, but as you can see, how this is related to blockchain. What we call today a DID, or a verifiable credential. But the genesis of that idea was actually pretty interesting. I had just moved an apartment in New York City. Also, this is the genesis of Maine too. And I had a new address now, obviously. And the same weekend, I basically had a credit card fraud alert on one of my credit cards. So the bank issued me a new card. After I moved, now I had to spend a couple of weekends going to 100 different websites, changing this information, right? My address and my credit card numbers, all my subscriptions, on all the websites that I frequent. And that was the moment when I'm like, all this information should be coming from me. I should be center point for all my information. I should own that information. I shouldn't have to go to 100 different websites and update my information. I shouldn't have to go to 100 different financial institutions to update my credit card information. It should be coming from me. There should be a center point where I update, this is Sumit, this is my ID, this is my information, and everyone should be getting it from there. And as you can see, this is again very decentralized process mechanism. But in 2009, we just didn't have this.
Yeah.
Right. So the first iteration of Main was basically an app where all of this information would be hiding behind a single identifier. And I would exchange that with you, with whoever I meet. Hey, connect with me on Main. This is my main name, right? And then I would select the data I would want to share with that individual, and they would just get that data. Of course, again, this would be centralized because this data would reside on the Main's operating system or servers. So that centralized mechanism would always be there. So for a lot of startups, if you think about this, they would think, okay, now how can we bring this on blockchain, right? Or how does this work on blockchain? For Main, it was the opposite. The product was waiting for something like blockchain to show up. And that moment happened in 2017, 2018. And then there was another iteration of Main. So the journey that Main has been on over the last 7 to 10 years has been incredible, right? All of this is me experimenting, bootstrapping it, not taking outside financing, not doing any of that because I wasn't sure of where this is going, right? So I would rather play with my own money rather than failing 3 or 4 times on investor money and getting a bad rep. So that was the whole thought process behind Main. And now we are where I believe is the third and the final iteration of Main, where it's become a complete data ownership protocol, what we call a zero-party data protocol, right? Where for the first time, we are connecting the owners of the data directly with enterprises, getting rid of all the middlemen, right? Today, you have all your social media apps, you have your websites, you have your cookies. They're gathering this data from you in a very unethical manner, so to speak, right? That data then is processed, it gets sold to data acquirers. From there, it goes to data buyers, data brokers, then it goes to data processors, and then it finally ends up in the hands of the enterprises. By that point, the cost of acquisition of this data for the enterprise is too high. The cost of acquisition for the customers for these enterprises is too high again. And in the end, the source of the data, which is the consumers, they don't get anything for it. They get a free app, they get a free platform, they get something, right? What we're doing is creating an all new economy by getting rid of all of these middlemen and connecting the user directly to the enterprises. So now for the user, on the user side, it's a completely tech extracted Web 2.0 app. You walk on the streets, you see your favorite brand, you scan a QR code, you share the data or enroll in a program, you get a reward, you walk away. You don't know it's blockchain. You don't know it's crypto, although it's all blockchain, all crypto, it's data ownership. And on the other side, for the enterprises, now your cost of acquisition has gone down. Your cost of data acquisition has gone down. Everything's gone down. And now you have a direct channel to the consumer. And we provide them with a beautiful customer data portal that gives you AI insights and gives you complete access to a whole range of data. And for the first time, you're also able to request a data type from a certain demographic, which is not possible today. So it's like, hey, I am a certain shoe brand or clothing brand. I want to target people aged between 25 to 35 living in Denver, making so and so money, X amount of money or whatever. And I want their financial data. I can send that out to the social feed. I can get that information from them and the users get rewarded directly.
Wow.
So Main was effectively it's like a 12-year journey of
Absolutely
thinking this through, experimenting, and getting to this kind of third phase now.
That is correct.
Where all of that kind of 12 years of experience is bundled.
And experimenting.
And experimented,
Yes,
exactly.
100%. Yeah.
Amazing. And I think, we go out in a second to where Main is right now, right?
Sure.
But I think from a vision perspective, how do you see this falling in place, right? Because a lot of people probably going to argue at some point that this is a very complicated thing, right? You need to get a lot of people, a lot of different stakeholders involved to make sure this is happening.
Yeah.
And where are we now, right? You're in the field, you're doing this every single day.
Yeah.
You know how difficult or easy it's going to be. So just give us a bit how is this handled now? You talked to American Express and many, many other big companies, right? How is that being perceived at the moment?
Yeah, so like any marketplace, a two-sided marketplace, there's always going to be a GTM 0-1 problem. Airbnb, you can name all these Uber, right? Without drivers, there are no users. Without users, there are no drivers, right? Airbnb, without the people putting the apartment for listing, there are users, and without the users, there are people. So that's always going to be a challenge, right? But the best startups get built, on a marketplace thesis, right? Yes. So where we stand today from that is we are in conversations with credit card processors, with issuers, because that solves a big GTM problem for us. Specifically giving their entire reward ecosystem, onto the platform. So there's intrinsic value built on Main from day one when you start using it. And then from acquisition of users is concerned, we did a beta about a year ago. We just wanted to acquire 2,000 users, but we ended up getting 19,000 users within a span of 3 or 4 days, right? Just because of those social flywheels we built in the app and how gamified our platform is.
How did you do that? Right? I mean, this is like a significant thing, right? I mean, 19,000 is not like a number that is, right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of companies would probably love to have a strategy like this,
yes.
right?
So this was a complete social media play. We hired some influencers to, basically post on social media about, getting on board with Main and how they can share all the information using a single identifier. And we had gamified, the platform was gamified, where you're like, hey, do this for 100 points. Complete your profile for 100 points. Okay, great. Share on social media for 200 points. Invite five more friends for 400 points, right? We had all those gamification built in, and we just saw, immediately, we were not ready for this. Our backend crashed because we just need 2,000 users, right? So it's a great story to tell.
A slight overshoot.
What? Sorry?
It was a slight overshoot.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this isn't what we expected. This is not what we wanted. But it was great. It was great experience to see that the social flywheels and the gamification we've built actually works, right? So we know that people want something that incentivize them without the complications of crypto, right? We haven't even said the word crypto, which is what I like when I talk about Main. Not to even use the word crypto.
I think that the more important thing than proving that the social flywheel works is there's obviously product market fit.
Yes.
Right. I think, 19,000 people is not a small number.
Yes. Of course, we didn't see the retention we wanted. There was acquisition, but not the retention. But of course, you learn as you go. And that's exactly why.
But that wasn't the main goal.
That wasn't the goal. The goal was to just get feedback. The goal was just to see, how, if there's PMF, if people want to use an app like this, and to see, if there's a market for this, right? So now we know that there's a market for this. We've improved a lot since then. This was a year ago. Now we are talking to merchants. We are talking to big retail companies in the US and all over the world. And things are looking very bright for us ahead.
Before I forget, and so ultimately, people they have ownership of their like data, which I think with now a lot of like the changes in cookies and like privacy with like Apple and like so like a lot of brands now are a little more blind to advertising and like being targeted with like cookies, and like that's gonna be going away as like well. And so now essentially people will be able to have the right to share their like data, and then they can earn rewards like based on how often they share or who they share it with.
Yeah, that's correct. So what you were talking about, Brent, here is first party, second party, and third party data, correct? Yeah. So the thing with first, second, and third party data is there's high quantity of data, but low quality. Yeah. There's no provenance, and then there's usability issues, and of course with GDPR, with HIPAA, if we can talk about health data as well, and with financial data, things are getting harder to get for the enterprises. Yeah. Right. And of course.
And it's outdated and
absolutely. And even the way we get this data today is unethical. It doesn't feel right for the consumer that my data is being shared forcefully by all these companies for ad targeting, right? What if there was a way to consentfully share this data where the user felt, okay, this is being done with my consent. And yes, I do trust this enterprise or this company to share that reward, the reward with me, right? Yeah. I'm the one getting paid for it directly. As an instance, credit card companies spend anywhere between $200 to $1,000 for one user acquisition, right? And this is all coming today from, various different sources. If the user themselves were rewarded, if, Bank of America came to you and said, hey, Brent, if you share your financial API with me, or just connect your API, right? I'll give you a $100 reward card, right? I think a lot of people would say yes for that. Because now you have the individual sharing the data getting rewarded, and in a consentful way, in an ethical way. And the bank is now potentially getting a user or a customer for the credit card or for whatever service they're selling for a much lower cost of acquisition.
How many, that's just a question I have, right? I mean, how many people care about where their data actually is?
Well, they don't care because they don't get anything out of it. As soon as you tell them that, hey, you would be rewarded for this, I think a lot of people would care. We did a market.
So it's that reward part, right? That makes it very attractive.
It's the incentives, right? And our incentives, unlike other crypto or blockchain companies, is not airdrops. It's not tokens.
Right.
It's a real world reward.
Like my voucher at the coffee shop and my gym membership.
Discount, it could be anything, right? And that's what I think entices and excites people. Something I can use right away, not something that is fairy dust.
Yeah, and so if I go to a coffee shop every day and I share my data with that coffee shop or that coffee chain, I don't have to keep sharing it. It's like one time I share it,
it's a one-time thing,
and then I get rewards. Okay,
that's correct. You can even select on a platform what you want to share with them, right? The more you share, the more rewards you could potentially get from that particular retailer or from that company.
So if I give them my social security number, I get
if a coffee shop wants a social security number,
free. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I get a free trip to Thailand.
Exactly, and
I bet a lot of people would even still do that. I mean, honestly,
a lot. I think if you go like African Asia, people will share anything for anything. I mean, I think there's a different market for different kind of rewards and things. But
it's interesting because one thing I hate giving up is my birthday. I always give a wrong birthday because I'm like, I don't want you guys knowing my goddamn birthday is, and they're gonna share that with a bunch of other people. But if it was like, we're gonna give you X, that could be
there's differences, right? You don't like to share your birthday. I'm like, I don't want to give my address.
Yeah. That's we get a PO box.
Yeah,
so you're sure.
And then on a platform, we also have different tiers of data, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If somebody wants your health data, of course you're gonna get rewarded a lot more.
Yeah, it's more valuable.
Exactly. It's I think the most valuable data is health. Yeah.
But I think we understand the consumer side, right? If I get that, I would do it.
Yeah.
No questions asked. I think what is the more interesting part is the enterprise side, right? Because someone has to give the incentive, right?
Yes.
So what is the incentive for the coffee shop, for the gym, for the
coffee shop is a low-hanging fruit, so I think we're gonna skip that one.
Yeah.
For them that would just be a rewards and loyalty play, I guess. But then if you think about, let's take an example, Nike, right? They spend, I think, between $20 to $40 million a year just on customer data acquisition. All of these big retail brands, they subscribe to various customer data portals. SAP has one, Microsoft has one, Experian has one because they have all the transaction data. Blade is also transactional information, right? Financial information. That's how we get. So these companies actually pay for access to this customer data across various portals, and that's their data acquisition channels.
Right.
And then on top of paying for these customer data portals, they're also giving rewards and they have their own loyalty programs on the side. So what Main does is it's bringing all of this together under a single umbrella in one service. So we provide them with a customer data portal that is subscribed to. And then the rewards and incentives that they give out is the rewards and incentives they're already giving out from their operational expense, through their rewards and loyalty program.
Yeah.
So for them, the cost and is actually going way down, fraction of what they're spending today by coming onto a platform.
Yeah, because even when you have a loyalty program with Nike as an example, they don't really have that much information on you.
Yeah,
they have your name, they have your email, maybe they have your birthday, and they have your prior purchase history.
That's it.
But they don't know anything. Do you own a pet? Are you married? Are you? Where do you live? All these things.
So Main sort of brings rewards and loyalty and customer data portal into a single platform.
And the data is updated, no?
It's always updated. Yeah. And the user can, of course, revoke it because we're all about privacy. We're all about data ownership. The users own their own data. Actually, the public and the private key is on their device for every data that they bring on-chain, either from on-chain or from off-chain,
Right.
So they completely own and control the data.
And I think Maine right now is in a, I think a very incredible state right now. I think the tech is,
Yeah.
just give a bit of where you are right now.
Yeah, unlike others, we spent a lot of years building our tech out. So all the heavy lifting is already done. All the groundwork is done. We have an incredible team of engineers. We have an incredible team that works on Maine day in day out, and all we now have to do is just market. Social media. What I would like to call is low-hanging fruit. Of course, it is required. It is important, but it is something that can be done relatively easier than, let's say, having to build the entire tech out at the pre-seed stage.
Yeah. What's the next 6 to 12 months look like for you guys?
Yeah, we are doing a pre-seed round now. We just kickstarted it here at ETH Denver. Of course, as you know, we've been talking about it for the last few months. So really looking forward to, closing this round. And once we do that, we have a pilot coming up in New York City that we'll be working on in the March, April timeframe, post pre-seed. Of course, BD is a big part of this. As you know, this is a heavy BD game. So hiring some really top BD talent to get, the retails on board.
Yeah.
And that would take us to, I think, seed and potentially TGE towards the end of the year.
I mean, what I love here is, you're not one of these founders that are just kicking off, right? You've put your own capital in this, you put your own time and research in this for a long period of time to get to the point where you are right now, where I think a lot of risk is sort of off the table, right?
Precisely.
That it is a very reasonable play for investors to get involved to really help.
One would think so. So we are very positive. We are very hopeful of what comes from ETH Denver and the people we are talking to and the conversations we're having. I think things are looking very good this year.
Absolutely. And so before we kind of wrap, I guess, how can people get involved? Like, can people use the app? Is there a wait list? Is there socials? How can people get involved with Maine?
Maine.app. That's a website. Pretty simple to remember. As of now, you can sign up to our newsletter, airdrops that's coming up, in the future as well. And that's a quick QR code for us. But that's where we are today. The focus is currently, of course, building a team out, bring the right people in for BD, and of course getting this fundraising down close so we can get back to building and shipping the product out there for the people.
Fantastic. Yeah. If anyone cares about the data, then they should definitely check out Maine.
Yeah.
Well, and making money from their data. Whereas now, the money's made off you versus with Maine.
Yeah, there have been a few attempts in the past as well. I think quite a few, and people are doing it now as well, in the crypto side of things. But things are convoluted. Things are confusing. It's data DAOs and data this and data that. But, we are aiming mostly for the people on the streets, people that, don't need to or have the time necessarily to learn about crypto onboarding and what have you, but are just able to use the consumer app, scan QR code, walk away with rewards. That's our goal.
I think it's now time to have something simple that brings the power back to the people.
That is right.
And, supports them monetarily to
100%.
give up their data to the companies that are anyway using it.
100%.
Yeah, exactly. Might as well get paid for it. Well, thank you for coming on, man.
Of course, thank you for having me.
It's great
really
to see you.
it.
Yeah, we'll see you next week in New York City as well.
100%.
Yep, and then we'll get back to you.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you.
Awesome.